Hey, welcome everyone. This is Crypto Vatsik. If you enjoy this video, please support the channel by liking and subscribing. Nothing of what you're about to see is considered financial advice. These are my opinions only. Okay, so just getting into it for today's video, we're going to look at order blocks. What they are, how to identify them, and how we can incorporate them into trading. Like anything else, incorporating something into your trading should really just augment your singular strategy, meaning you should strive to become an expert at one thing rather than mediocre at many different things. So for example, if you're an Elliott wave theory strategist or a Fibonacci expert, or even just playing level to level or order blocks, you can always use other indicators or technical analysis to boost your main strategy. But it's key to not get so caught up going down different rabbit holes, because more often than not, you'll either contradict your thesis, contradict yourself, or simply you'll just be blinded by fitting multiple indicators to fit your bias. So making it much harder to find your invalidation points. So having a clear strategy, you can identify your invalidation levels, and it's good to have an understanding of these other methodologies, but in my opinion, you don't want to muddy the water, so to speak, so it becomes so difficult for yourself to manage your many different strategies and your invalidation points and your targets and so forth. So you might ask yourself, well, why Vatsik? Why do I care? Why are you telling me this? What's your strategy then? Well, I mean, pretty simply for me, my strategy is mainly support resistance levels, SR flips, how I incorporate that using order blocks. I use some Fibonacci, but ultimately it allows me to really confidently long or short SR flips and those retests. So it's my main success when I've been trading, and I understand other methodologies and can identify them, may even share them out on my socials. However, it's not, I know I'm not good at everything. So, my strength is usually defaulting back to that main strategy, and, using other principles and order blocks and so forth as well that really tie into it, but it really defaults back to that. So order blocks, simply put, are where larger players in the market are either entering or exiting positions, really. Large players being institutions, banks, in crypto, we'll see whales. They're frequently used Order blocks are frequently used in Forex markets by banks, and often they become trapping points for retail investors, who might, like you and I, who might not understand what or where they are, and you end up getting chewed up by the big chip players sitting at the table, that have many analysts and traders just eating up liquidity or using us as exit liquidity. So if you're a trader, better identifying these order blocks and levels, it will give you a competitive advantage, an edge against not only other traders, but against these institutional participators as well. So with that said, let's get into it. So an order block really is the point where a candle becomes invalidated. And there's different ways of measuring it out, or, some people use the full body candle, some people use 50% of it, or some people will just draw basically a support or resistance level at the candle body, or even sometimes the wick. But to each their own. But the methodology is that if a candle is essentially invalidated before it comes down, essentially the point of invalidation of the last up candle before coming down is your order block. So you'd want to wait for basically the candle body to be broken and see a move come down further where that candle is now invalidated if it was a bullish candle, right? So the same thing for coming down. Basically, it's the point where a candle is invalidated. So you got your last down candle before it's invalidated, and then the move starts to begin up. And oftentimes, this is why you'll see something like this, where you can get a double bottom. So you'd see a last down candle here invalidated on the move up, right? And that becomes your order block. Something like that, right? It's hard to see because these are lines, and we'll get into the candles, but basically you get your order block from that last candle down that gets invalidated on the move up. And oftentimes you could just pull it across and you'd see, okay, so we came back up, maybe to a previous order block up here somewhere, came back down, retested this order block, and came back up. And so you kind of see that those double bottom patterns, or even a range where it's just bouncing continuously. And the same can be said for coming up, right? So you get something like this. So there would be a candle here. Your last up candle gets invalidated by a red candle coming down. And so then you get your order block somewhere in there where that invalidation occurs. And then oftentimes, you'll see something like this, where you get a double top, comes back, retests this order block, and comes back down. So that's why, you'll see these happen. You'll say, oh, double top or double bottom. And it's like, well, why? Like, why are we seeing this? What's going on here, right? Why is support? Why is resistance? So let's just get into some candles here that we've got on C98 coin here. Basically just marked out some different order blocks that we can see here either as support or resistance. So let's just go back in time here for a second and start at the beginning. So much like SR flips, we can see order blocks being areas where there is areas of support or resistance. So back here we saw, okay, this candle, just ignore this one for now. We saw this candle here was our last up candle, and it did wick up to here, okay? And then this big red candle right here that totally invalidated the bottom of that green candle, and that became our order block. So some people take it from, the candle itself. So they might even just draw it that small actually, which is fine. Just for visual purposes here in this video, I'm going to take it up to the wick though. And sometimes, you'll see that the wick often plays a significant part, but for this case, we'll take it up to the wick, invalidated, this became our order block. So if we're just seeing this price right now, right, you'd recognize this order block and you'd be able to play it later on. And so basically we came back up to it here, retested it as resistance, and this is why sometimes people take it to the 50% of either the move or the candle or the wick or whatever, right? So you can take it even to 50% here roughly, and you can see it wicked right up here later on August 8th, about 50% of the entire candle, including the wick, but leave it up there for now. So as resistance, rejected, and then, so this would have actually been resistance at the time. Then what did we see? Well, we saw a break in market structure here, right? So this was a downtrend right here. It was a downtrend, okay? And we saw our last red candle, our last down candle, before we saw a break of the trend, break of the structure, and a candle breakout before we made our move up. And so that became our order block. And that became our support for later. And so basically, when I say we broke through the structure here, we're also saying we smashed through this order block here. So if we just draw this all the way over, smashed right through it, okay? This would have been resistance. And then what did we do? Came all the way back down, retested it, barely grabbed up, was able to grab up, orders in this order block, right? So it just tapped it. And then obviously, very, very bullish move afterwards, but a very nice play where we could see resistance turned into support. Okay, so let's move over here. Same thing. Downtrend, last candle up here before moving down. That's our order block. Okay. And you can take these lines. Some people take these lines from the bottom of the bottom of the candle, or they like to draw out kind of a block, so to speak, right? So that's what I've been doing for this tutorial. I like to use both, but I will use kind of the areas because you will see oftentimes wicks coming into order blocks and sometimes even faking out. So with that said, anyways, we've got our resistance order block there that has been respected very well here. Wicked into it, about 50% into the block. Well, take it from the candle. Came into the block here, wicked in, wicked just up here, just barely touching it as resistance, right? So definitely respecting it. And then what did we get? So down here, we got a break in market structure, bullish candle, breaking the downtrend. And so our last down candle here becomes our order block, right? And so you can clearly see even just wicked down here as well before to the bottom of that. So there's definitely an area of interest in here for institutional buying, right? And so we'll see that as support now. It came all the way back up. Not quite retesting this previous block, but I'm sure there's areas of interest in here that it did wick up to as resistance. It's obviously on a downtrend here still. We got a retest of this previous order block here now as support. Beautiful retest, came back up until eventually we saw this. So we got all the way back up to this previous order block. We wicked all the way up here, just almost to the top of this candle, right? So you can see over here in the wick, and we came all the way up that high. So still respecting it, and could have been a nice fake out if you didn't recognize this area. But either way, what did we get? We got a downtrend. So we got a break in structure. This was our last bullish candle. You can take it from here. You can take it from here. Whatever you like. We'll leave it here for now. And we got a big red sell-off candle here that broke the structure. And there's now our most recent order block. Okay. So we come back down. What do we see? We see, let's drag this out. Okay. That was our previous support block. Drag it all the way out, still respecting it. Wick, taking up liquidity. Well, until it finally breaks through, okay? And it's fine. It doesn't mean just because there's support or resistance, they won't break, right? Breaks through, comes back down. What do we get? All we can do is identify break in market structures, right? Or macro, on a macro scale, we're using the 1 day here. I just find them much easier to identify, and you can zoom in and get more involved on the lower time frames, but they're much easier to identify and to trade on higher time frames. I would say minimum 4 hour, but either way, we'll stick to the 1 day for now. We saw this wick on this red candle here come all the way down here, so you kind of go, okay, well, why would it stop there? Well, okay, so maybe we had some chop, and then we got the break structure here. There's our order block, and it lines up actually quite well with the bottom of that wick. And there's some interest over here at some point as well, so I won't get into that. But either way, we've got our now this is support. Okay, come back up to this previous order block, which is now resistance. What do? Reject off, multiple tests, come back down. We create a new order block here now as resistance, the last up candle, last bullish candle before it breaks structure. Or you could actually, might be this one actually. I might prefer this one. I'd have to look at that, but let's move it to this one for now. Break in structure, come back down, blew through this order block just like nothing, and and then we got a preceding moves here, right? So this is it's a simple strategy. You can identify them all over the place. I find it helps to just really identify those areas where there'll be significant buying or selling. So just looking at right now, if you're looking at the order blocks, you'd want to be saying, okay, well, where can I enter, where can I sell, kind of thing, where in areas of interest, right? So these are it's a simple methodology, but it can be very effective, and you can use it to your benefit. It's kind of a boring market right now, but you definitely got some resistance up here, but we're still sitting on support, right? So you just draw this out basically. And you can see we're still sitting on support, so nothing to freak out over at this point, but just use it to your advantage. Thanks for joining, guys.